Live from Washington, D.C., Jay Sekulow Live. Phone lines are open for your questions right now. And now, Chief Counsel for the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow.
Hey, welcome back to the broadcast, everyone. We've been talking about our FOIA cases, but I want to move our attention for a moment, that's the Freedom of Information Act case that we've been talking about, to the group called Fusion GPS. They have been in the news relating to President Trump, relating to the Russia investigation. Senate had the head of Fusion GPS for testimony for 10 hours. But there's a lot of discussion about what they do and who they are. But Jordan has studied this pretty thoroughly, and you need to understand when we start talking about these groups and this dossier that was created on the president, remember that ended up being debunked as false by Christopher Steele, who was a former British spy, but as we always say, you're never a former spy exactly. But who is, people need to know, Jordan, who Fusion GPS is.
Yeah, it just sounds like a funky name. It's a group that was formed by 3 former investigative reporters from the Wall Street Journal who would investigate financial crimes, financial wrongdoing. So these were not, again, this is not like your investigative reporters in your local news channel. These were the guys at the Wall Street Journal looking at very complicated matters and in doing investigations. How they describe themselves is rather nasty. They are for-hire journalism, which means they dig up dirt, opposition researchers, for anybody. They don't care who the client is.
They define themselves as a strategic intelligence firm with 2 other Wall Street Journal alumni.
Yeah, they've done work for great organizations like Planned Parenthood during the videos that were being done. So they dug up dirt on those who were making the videos. Center for Medical Progress, right? Yeah. So, I mean, they've done work for the Democrats. Supposedly, they did work for a Republican donor. But they've never identified what that term means, and that may just be someone who was a major Democrat donor who once gave money to a Republican, so someone who's just a big money person.
Yeah, I mean,
and they didn't like Donald Trump, so they were focusing all their resources on that.
If you ever gave money to a Democrat, it means you're a Democratic donor, in a sense.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, the way that they've defined that person has not been exposed is who was the client that Fusion GPS was working with, and they'd done a lot of work with Russia specifically. So that could have been the client, which would debunk a lot of the Russian theory itself if Russia was paying for a dossier to undermine Donald Trump.
Yeah. So the reason I wanted to bring this up at the top of this half hour of the broadcast is the individual that in charge of it, Glenn Simpson, was actually before one of the committees for 10 hours, but not under oath, right?
Not under oath, and of course not public. Now, there is going to be a vote in the Senate committee on releasing his testimony. His attorneys have said they have no problem with that. I think because it's not under oath, there's not as many issues there, and they're not hiding who they are or what they've done. It's out there and in the open, and they're sticking by it. So a lot of the issues here are disseminated too. A lot of this John McCain animus between John McCain and President Trump is because John McCain was pushing
the dossier from Christopher Steele.
Yeah.
And gave it to the FBI. Yeah. There you have it. All right, let's grab a call.
Let's go to Elsa in Miami, Florida online, too. Elsa, you're on the air.
Hi, Elsa. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes, you guys are doing a great job,
Thanks.
But I just wanted to know, when is there going to be a council set up to start investigating all these people?
So I don't think you have to have a special counsel for this. I think that the FBI should be utilizing its existing resources with the Department of Justice to conduct the necessary investigations to determine who's involved in leaking, what the obligations are, what the criminal statutes that have been violated are, and build a case like you would in any other criminal proceeding. Go to the grand jury, get evidence, get information, and then if there's enough information to indict, get an indictment. Once you have an indictment, then you make a determination that you prosecute. And I think that's the way it has to be done. So, Elisa, I don't think it has to be a special counsel. You can't have a special counsel for every matter. I mean, it's just that every investigation doesn't need a special counsel. Every potential file doesn't have a special counsel. All right, we're getting ready to go to break. Remember, we've got to take your calls and comments when we come back. This investigation of Loretta Lynch needs to be going forward. What took place in that tarmac, frankly, and as we're getting into it, inexplicable. We're working hard on it on our end, but we want the federal government to do its job as well. You can sign that petition at ACLJ.org or add your name at 1-877-989-2255. That's 877-989-2255 or ACLJ.org.
Former Obama Attorney General Loretta Lynch meddled in the FBI's investigation of Hillary Clinton. She instructed the FBI director to call the criminal investigation, quote, a matter. Even worse, she held a secret closed-door meeting on a government plane with former President Bill Clinton, while Lynch's Department of Justice conducted a criminal investigation of his wife. Lynch violated federal regulations. She broke DOJ directives and ethics rules. Now the Senate Judiciary Committee has launched an investigation into the former Obama AG's corrupt actions. We've started our own investigation at the ACLJ, filing a major lawsuit against the Lynch DOJ over evidence of her unethical and deceitful actions. Demand truth and accountability with us. Add your name to our petition. It's time to hold Lynch accountable. Call now, 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or add your name online, aclj.org.
Hey, welcome back to the broadcast, everyone. Taking your calls at 1-800-684-3110. Joining us in our studio is our Director of Policy, Professor Harry Hutchison, and Dr. Andrew Economou, Senior Counsel to the ACLJ. Andy, we've been talking about, for yesterday and today, about the importance of these cases. You and I have been going through painstakingly, I will add, all of these cases to get a sense. Folks, there's thousands of pages of documents that you get in these cases. But I think you got to understand what the goal is when we're talking about these FOIA cases, what we're trying to determine out. We're not only trying to determine substance of who did what exactly, but we want to know who was responsible for it. In other words, not just what happened, but who was the party or parties that initiated that, and are those people still in government? That's a big part of this. So where it becomes painstaking, it's not just the document itself, it's the names on the to and from list on the emails.
That's very important, Jay, to establish one of the things that's fundamental to a Republican form of government, and that is accountability. We want to know who did what, and we want to know the names of the individuals who are responsible. As Judge Walton said in the Lynchpins versus U.S. case, put it on the line. He directed the Internal Revenue Service in that case to tell us who the people are who denied tax-exempt status to those entities that were seeking tax-exempt status that have had conservative or right-leaning names. And that's the whole idea of the Freedom of Information Act, accountability. You cannot hide behind the document. You cannot be redacted and hide behind a black magic marker. You've got to come forward and tell us who you are and what you did.
All right. So, Harry, from a policy perspective, if you were to say what the policy goal was here, because these are questions, Logan, that people asked yesterday. I'm sure we're getting some today. People focusing on criminal liability and these things. But if we're looking at what is the policy goal with trying to get these cases moving?
Jay, to answer your question, it's quite simple. We are pursuing government accountability, and we are seeking to remove layer upon layer of the deep state. Top layers, many of them have been removed already, but we need to remove additional layers and expose members of the deep state who remain, individuals who have as their objective the obstruction of a Republican form of government. And I mean that with a small r.
Yeah, so this is when you're talking about government reform and trying to move that forward from a legal end, this, Jordan, is how you do it. Then we'll grab some phone calls.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that for full government reform, you're not going to be able to put everybody in jail. I mean, there are going to be those who have conducted criminal activity, the leakers of classified information. They should be in jail. And I am hoping that Jeff Sessions' press conference was not just a press conference, but that we will actually see some of the D.C. swamp. I'm not talking about government contractors who work for, off-site in Augusta, Georgia. I'm talking about high-ups. If they're leaking, yeah, they should go to jail. But for government to reform the government the way we're talking about, and the bureaucracy and the deep state, you've got to expose the individuals that are involved so that they can be fired. because they've made it very difficult to fire bureaucrats. So you've got to have the reasons to fire many of these people. That is why the judge's order in the IRS case, as I keep saying, is so important, where he tells the IRS, you've got to list out all of the employees that were involved in doing this targeting. Why is that important? Because then the IRS, directed by the Treasury and now, being run by ultimately the President of the United States, Donald Trump, can instruct the removal of those staff, of everyone that was involved. That would be enough of a reason to basically probably get rid of multiple division heads within the IRS. We've already seen Lois Lerner and her deputies go, but there are likely more.
All right, let's go ahead and take some phone calls or comments.
Same
either
with
one.
like the State Department with the editing of the video.
Right.
Whoever instructed that could be a bureaucrat press official.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean they were a political appointee.
Right.
Let's take some of these that have been hold for a long time. Let's go to Jenny, who's calling in Washington. You've been hold about a half hour. Jenny on line 6, you're on the air.
Hey, Jenny, go ahead.
Hi, I'm so grateful that you guys have done all the work you've done. I can't express my gratitude in words, really.
Thanks.
You're amazing.
Thanks.
But my question is why is Hillary still walking around? There's a
Well, there's been no
charge
charge because there's been no criminal charges brought against her. I mean, that's the way the system in the United States works. There's been no, as far as I know, there was never even a grand jury investigating. She was never in a situation where you heard James Comey. I don't want to play that again for the 400th time.
No.
He said she didn't violate the law. Now, the whole system is, look, you could relitigate that case, and believe me, I think it should be looked at. But the fact is, there was no charges brought against her, Andy. When there's no charges brought against her, you don't go to jail. That's the way the system works. It's the way the system should work. But in this situation, it seems like there was like a triple standard here. I wouldn't even say a double standard.
Well, it's a pretty awful standard because no grand jury was ever convened. As far as I know, we would not necessarily have known that. But I mean, I don't want to come to the conclusion that we should not be satisfied until every government employee who was in the FBI, the DOJ, or the State Department is on probation. Will I be happy or has served a prison sentence? Right. We're not saying that.
You got to internally change the way in which the agency operates, which we did with the IRS.
And
that was a big deal.
It was a very big deal to see that with the IRS. And the term of Koskinen, I think, is coming up, and he's going to be gone in November, and we'll have a new IRS commissioner. But all that is moving toward cleaning the swamp out, which the president has vowed to do, and which I think he's done a very good job of doing, although he has gotten enormous opposition. But what do you expect? Did you expect to clean the swamp out when the Augean stables, as one of the labors of Hercules in Greek mythology was? It was a Herculean task that he performed, and that's what the president is attempting to do.
Yeah, but these bureaucrats have been entrenched, Harry, for a very long time.
Absolutely, and they've gotten very, very comfortable in their positions, and they have gotten comfortable in leaking out damaging information. The current administration has suffered from leaks to a ratio of 7 times higher than the prior administration.
Right.
And that's an important point to remember, and it may tie back to some of the unmasking scandals associated with Susan Rice and with others.
All right, Logan, call or comment?
Let's take some calls. A lot of people have been holding for a long time. Let's go to Renee, who's calling in Los Angeles, California.
Hi, Renee.
Hi, thank you so much for working so hard on behalf of the American people. Quick question and a comment. I'm a woman of color, and I so appreciate President Trump. Although I didn't vote for him nor Clinton, I am so glad he is the president. This is the change we wanted 8 years ago, and we didn't get. My question, it seems to me that the media is in collusion with the deep state to divide and conquer the American people. What is the ultimate goal of the deep state?
Well, look, I mean, I got 5 people. Everybody here is shaking their head, agreeing with you. If you're watching on TV or watching us on Facebook or Periscope, everybody's saying yes. Well, look, the media is in lockstep with the bureaucrats. I mean, that's just fact. I'll give you a perfect example of this. I was getting some flack, about 2 weeks ago, from some of the media outlets saying you were only going on Fox News, Jay Sekulow, counsel to the president, to talk, to go on the news. You only went on Fox. Well, the truth was I was only on Fox because Fox was willing to cover the fact that in our FOIA case involving the FBI, that the FBI reopened the file, which was unheard of. And that was the reason. So I said to the other networks, you want to talk about that, I'm happy to do it, but I'm not going to make up news about a Russia probe when news doesn't exist. But that kind of shows you, Renee, what the standard going forward is.
I will say that we finally got a call yesterday from one of the CNN Justice reporters. I'll name it. Evan Perez called.
Yeah, good.
Because he wants to figure out who in the FBI first said that they had nothing on the FOIA and then came back to us and says they're going to reopen. Appreciate it. I mean, will they ever actually report on it? I don't know. We provided the documentation necessary that shows it was the same person that signed the initial letter in the FOIA department of the FBI that said they have nothing. It's the same person who signed it that now says they've reopened it. So he's got that. We provided it to him like we would any other journalist. We'll see what CNN does with it.
All right. Let's take. Do we have time for one quick call, Logan, before this break?
How about a comment? Let's say comment. A lot of people are calling in. A lot of people are asking very similar questions, so I think it's something we can address. But this is from Don. Said, "What can we expect to receive? When can we expect to receive the next FOIA document production?" So people are curious what the timeline is.
So
we know?
Yeah. So this is something that we've been having meetings on this for the last 2 days because they're called rolling admissions based, so rolling productions. So in one of them, I mistakenly said yesterday, by the way, that we received 400 pages in one. Well, we actually received 21 pages, but it will be, once the full production start, it will be 400 pages a month. But it can be thousands and thousands of pages, Andy, and we're looking at 7 cases. I mean, literally tens of thousands of pages of documents.
That's true, Jay. Just for an example, we have a case filed against the Department of State regarding the Clinton State Department supporters and the Clinton Foundation,
right.
Which, by the way, the Clinton Foundation was a wholly owned subsidiary of the Department of State.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all it was.
Or vice versa.
Or vice versa. One was a wholly owned subsidiary of the other, but they certainly were basically simultaneous, coterminous entities. But, for example, we will be receiving 1,000 documents per month through December 2017 by court order.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't voluntarily give us that. We had to go to court.
6,000
and Judge
pages.
Emmett Sullivan in the District of Columbia and the District Court ordered that those documents be produced. Similarly, in a case in which we are looking at the
18
state,
seconds.
The inaction to the ISIS genocide, we're getting a rolling production every 90 days of documents. Next is due September 6th.
All right, we're getting ready to go to break. Remember, we've got to take your calls and comments when we come back. This investigation of Loretta Lynch needs to be going forward. What took place in that tarmac, frankly, and as we're getting into it, inexplicable. We're working hard on it on our end, but we want the federal government to do its job as well. You can sign that petition at ACLJ.org or add your name at 1-877-989-2255. That's 877-989-2255 or ACLJ.org.
Former Obama Attorney General Loretta Lynch meddled in the FBI's investigation of Hillary Clinton. She instructed the FBI director to call the criminal investigation, quote, a matter. Even worse, she held a secret closed-door meeting on a government plane with former President Bill Clinton, while Lynch's Department of Justice conducted a criminal investigation of his wife. Lynch violated federal regulations. She broke DOJ directives and ethics rules. Now, the Senate Judiciary Committee has launched an investigation into the former Obama AG's corrupt actions. We've started our own investigation at the ACLJ, filing a major lawsuit against the Lynch DOJ over evidence of her unethical and deceitful actions. Demand truth and accountability with us. Add your name to our petition. It's time to hold Lynch accountable. Call now, 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or add your name online, aclj.org.
Welcome back to the broadcast.
Peter in Ecuador, you're on the air on line 5.
We feel overwhelmed, the people that is, about the deep state, and we realize that is a problem.
Right.
And so the system of the Republican small r system of government says we the people, right?
Right.
So is it true that we have the right to convene something called a common law grand jury to basically indict, prosecute, inquire about corrupt judges?
So you're talking about like a citizen grand jury. That's not the way it's
citizen grand jury?
Yeah, so now, and we don't really, in the United States system, there are both state grand juries and federal grand juries, Andy.
That's correct. And grand juries are person selected, 16 to 23 people selected at random in a judicial district, for example, or in a state, in a circuit, for example. And their job is to determine whether or not there is probable cause to believe that a crime has been committed. And if they do, they return what's called a true bill of indictment, which means that the person who has been indicted faces criminal charges in a court of law and a jury trial. But those actions are brought by district attorneys and United States attorneys, not by citizens getting together and deciding to charge someone.
Yeah. And so when Andy was U.S. attorney, I was Chief Counsel's Office of Treasury. We would do criminal referrals to Andy's office. They would then determine whether the grand jury was going to be utilized. I've been a state attorney general, especially appointed state attorney general for the state of Alabama on a case. I've done it also for the state of Georgia as a special district attorney on a criminal matter where I defended the state of Georgia. And in those cases, in that particular case, there was an indictment that went forward that resulted in the case, and we ended up winning at the Supreme Court of Georgia and got the statute declared constitutional. But great question from Ecuador. We appreciate it.
All right, let's go to Jesse in Valdosta, Georgia. Not as far as Ecuador, but you're on the air.
Yep, but go ahead, Jesse. Good onions down there.
Hey, Jay.
And that's Vidalia. Sorry, wrong. Yep.
I got the check it out. I want to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
The question is this. How can Comey leak information to his friends so it can be leaked?
Well,
that was an illegal act to get a special counsel.
So it clearly, Jesse, I think that a grand jury should be investigating now. There is no justification, Jordan, in my view, for what he did there.
No. I mean, again, we believe that that's criminal that in the sense that he took government property that is likely contained, as we've been told by those who have seen it. 4 of the 7 memos contain classified information, so that then leads to other criminal statutes, the Espionage Act. So there's enough felonies there, criminal felonies there, to be put behind bars, certainly prosecuted. And it's a separate investigation. We know the Department of Justice Inspector General is investigating. They announced that. What we don't know, and we really shouldn't know because the Department of Justice doesn't announce this, is whether it's being criminally investigated or not. Probably is, I would think, but again, that would not be something we would be told.
Harry, when you were looking at what we're trying to accomplish here and looking at the end game, how would you define the end game again? I think it's important for people to understand, because we've talked about this for 2 days, and people have asked the question, where does this get us? And people are saying, can we get a common law? They want people in jail. I mean, people are angry about this. But more important than jail is reforming the agencies.
Absolutely.
That may include prosecuting people that violate the law.
So one of the objectives would be an openness in government. In other words, we would have a government that responds to the people in contradistinction to responding to predispositions that are politicized. That's number one. Number two, we want to expand accountability. And number three, we want to remove bad actors. Fourth, I would suggest that Jeff Sessions ought to listen to Jordan with respect to convening a grand jury with respect to some of the misconduct, particularly the misconduct of FBI director, former FBI director James Comey.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's the responsibility of the Attorney General and his team to put these people behind bars. He's told the media, they had that big press conference, it's coming. It shouldn't take that long. I mean, we know if you know the leak happened, all you have to do is find who leaked it and then get the grand jury to indict. If you know that who is leaking, then you just bring the charges against them. So, I mean, in the case of Comey, we know who the person is and we know it was leaked so that you get the grand jury. And in some of these instances, we know the leak happened. You just got to get the person. And, I mean, my goodness, you would think that the FBI and Department of Justice could track these people down in a matter of moments.
All right, let's go ahead and get another call.
All right, Michelle in Vegas, line 2, you're on the air.
Hi, Michelle, go ahead.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hope you're well.
Thanks
for everything you do and keeping me sane in the crazy world of U.S. politics.
Our pleasure.
Just a quick question. How can you be sure that the information you receive under the FOIA request is everything you've asked for? How can you know whether it's been edited or mislaid?
We know if it's edited because they redact it. So I don't have one here.
In many ways.
So they are edited. So they will take out various data, and then you go back and try to fight over that. Do you ever know that you're getting everything you asked for? Well, Andy's shaking his head. The truth of the matter is a very good question, Michelle. The truth of the answer is you don't. You just have to be persistent And as you see something, we had a big meeting about this yesterday and even a little bit this morning in our offices saying we've got to drill down on this stuff.
Well, we were told that there was no documents with respect to the Clinton, Elizabeth Carlisle, also known as the Attorney General Loretta Lynch meeting on the tarmac. And then suddenly and miraculously, they reopened it and said additional documents have appeared. So you don't know whether or not you're getting everything. But isn't that a sad commentary on your government where there is a law that requires them to turn over documents to citizens, and in the end, you can't be sure whether you got everything? Democracy dies in darkness.
He loves quoting the Washington Post.
Sometimes.
Okay, so I'm not going to say any comment. All right, go ahead. One more. Can we get one more?
Yeah, let's go to Dominique in California in line 6. You're on the air.
Hi, Dominique. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Hi.
Yep.
I just have a comment. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And then you see James Clapper questioning the status of his mental,
of the president,
or whatever. And then they have books coming out. I mean, the narcissism, it's just incredible.
Well, look, they're in, the left is in full-blown political mode here. I mean, believe it or not, it's because you know what you're thinking about now? Midterm elections. Am I right, George? I mean, it's they're here.
It's all about politics now. It's all about the House and the Senate, and if that is where the focus is going to be. The rhetoric is just going to get tougher and tougher and more extreme, and that's when the books start coming out and the nastiness gets worse.
That's going to do it for the broadcast today. Again, we want to urge you to sign our petition. We've got it up at ACLJ.org. We think that there needs to be a full investigation of what took place on that tarmac and an investigation of how that whole situation transpired without any. I mean, you've seen the documents we've talked about on this broadcast. I mean, now hundreds of documents, 400 pages of documents on this whole Loretta Lynch, Bill Clinton meeting. The American people deserve an answer. That's what freedom and liberty is about. You could sign that petition at ACLJ.org or call us at 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255 or ACLJ.org. See you next week.
Former Obama Attorney General Loretta Lynch meddled in the FBI's investigation of Hillary Clinton. She instructed the FBI director to call the criminal investigation, quote, a matter. Even worse, she held a secret closed-door meeting on a government plane with former President Bill Clinton, while Lynch's Department of Justice conducted a criminal investigation of his wife. Lynch violated federal regulations. She broke DOJ directives and ethics rules. Now the Senate Judiciary Committee has launched an investigation into the former Obama AG's corrupt actions. We've started our own investigation at the ACLJ, filing a major lawsuit against the Lynch DOJ over evidence of her unethical and deceitful actions. Demand truth and accountability with us. Add your name to our petition. It's time to hold Lynch accountable. Call now, 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or add your name online, aclj.org.